Welcome home. This is the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday and there's always room for one more. Come right this way. Have a seat with me today in the corner booth one more time, celebrating our 99th week. And hey, guess what? Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise and the pipes don't freeze. We'll be back for number 100, and that'll be just fine with us. Sweeney, clear that floor. Katie, bar that door. Molly, put on another pot of Irish coffee. It's time we get this show on the road. Hey, we've got another full house today, not a chair to spare. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, and you can reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com anytime. Just click on the contact link, and be sure to check out the written show notes on my blog that have a lot of links to the things we're talking about in this podcast, so you can just go there and click on it and get there right away if I've been perfect in my transcriptions to that blog. Hey, and you can also call 816-256-3360 and leave your comments on my recorder. Try it, you'll like it. Hey, among today's topics, Quinn is the Irish family name of the day. The Scottish Max is the book of the month. Searching for McNealey, Moffat, and Kelly. A new flight to Niagara Falls is planned from Ireland. Irishmen with wind power, not just a lot of hot air. And lastly, the Irish Families Project is the video of the day. Hey, remember, you can get all of my 5 podcast feeds on iTunes or directly from my webpage. You don't need an iPod, but you can sure use one. All you need is a computer. It'll work just fine. We've got this podcast right now, which is the Irish Roots Cafe Genealogy and Family History podcast, in just the regular form that's audio only, or in the enhanced form that also has little pictures that go along with it and have links in the pictures that you can click. If I pick a good one or two for you today, I hope so. And then we also have the Irish in America podcast and the Irish Song and Recitation podcast and the Irish Roots Cafe video shorts. And that one's going on right now, too. We got one every week here for the next month or two. And it's time we moved on to, what do we got here? Well, I don't have many notes this week. This might be a little bit shorter than a regular show. You never know till it's over, because we do a lot of what they call improvisation here, I think. And, well, what do I have here I could talk about for a second? Hey, look what came in the mail today. The Midwest Irish Focus newspaper. They had some good articles in there. That paper's been around for a while, too, and that takes a lot of work. So 3 cheers for the publishers. And what they have in there interesting, they had an article about the Irish wilderness here in the Midwest and the settlement early on in the 1800s. And that new CD come out by John Spillane, and it's about singing Irish songs that they learned in school back in Ireland when they learned them in Irish, and they play them on that tape, and hey, you might be able to pick up a simple song in Irish and sing it. And it might take you a couple weeks to get there if you don't know the language, but it'd be fun nonetheless. Well, let's move on now. What are we going to do? We'll move on to the book of the month this month. And that's going to be the Scottish Max. I don't think we've ever done this one. I'm not sure. Don't get a lot of attention, all these Irishmen here, and everybody forgets there's a lot of Scots-Irish in the audience, a lot of Scots-Irish in the world, to say nothing of all the Scots-Irish in Ireland. And this is a book that traces history and origins with names that begin with Mac, Mick, and just the M prefix in general with its variations. And it's family names of Scotland and the Scots-Irish. And like I said, it's derivations and origins, and I think that was by Johnston, and we republished that a few years back. I've got a link on the blog if you want to take a look at it in detail. And let's see, on the blog I put the preface I wrote in that book. When we reprinted it, I might say a few words here. It says, here's the latest addition to our historical series on family names. This is an appropriate book for our members, many of whom descend from Scottish Macs, settling eventually in Ireland, America, Canada, and Australia. The author James B. Johnston also wrote Place Names of Scotland, Place Names of Stirlingshire, and Place Names of England and Wales. And that was a ways back, too. Now, this work complements the book that we also completed in about that time frame, which was Names That Begin with Mac, Mick, and O, and that covers names in Scotland, Ireland, and America. You might say it's sort of demographically oriented. It's more a study of names than the history of each family name. And I just finish up by saying we trust our members will appreciate the distinctive viewpoint expressed in the Scottish Macs, and it is a valued work which will be helpful to the family name researcher. Well, I take a look at that, and some folks might say, well, I wonder what kind of names he's talking about, names that could be Scots-Irish, because some of these names are also considered fully Irish, and sometimes some of the name are Irish and some of the name are Scottish, and sometimes people don't really know which side they came from. There was a lot of interchange between Scotland and Ireland over the years, and you'd be surprised how common that bloodline might just turn out to be. But names like, well, I'm sure you're going to recognize Macbeth, and how about names like MacBrair and MacGilbride and MacBain? How about Macanish, McAllister, McAleese, Macara, McCardle, McAllen, Macaulay, of course, McAvoy, McBain, McBean, McBay. Gosh, these are just the B's I took off there. I posted 100 of the names that are in that book on the blog so you could take a look at it and get a feel for how similar these names are between Ireland and Scotland. A few of the names that started in the B section were McBlain and McBrair and McBurney and McGilbrace and McCartane and McCarley, McBain, McBay, and Mackenbard, which, of course, is a big name up there in County Donegal when it goes back to origins, I believe. So that's both Irish, Scots-Irish, at least it looks like it. So that's the lesson for the book for the day. If you got any interest in that, you might take a look at that book by old Johnston. It was sure a groundbreaker for its day. Hey, and now, coming up, we're going to talk about which poor Irish counties now is picking up trade with the tourists. It used to be overlooked, and now people are sort of sneaking in there saying, oh, it's nice to be away from all those tourists. Can you guess which county that might be? We'll have that coming up in just a little bit. We're going to pass on the county of the month this week. We've got enough to do, so we'll just wait and make something come out next week that works real well. And gosh, we've also got, what do we have? Also got a little note on the First Communion magazine in Ireland, and it's successful, but now some folks are saying it might be a little controversial. I wonder what that might be. Well, but now it's time for that favorite segment for so many of us, especially for 7 of us. Here are today's Magnificent 7. Well, number 1, new member Paul Saunders of North Ridgeville, Ohio, searching for McNealey and McNealey, spelled Nealey and Neeley. And number 2, Kathleen Quinn of Des Plaines, Illinois, trying to find out where in Northern Ireland our family came from. And that would be Quinn, Hagan, Moffat, and Kelly. And she says they immigrated to Glasgow, Scotland, and then Manchester, New Hampshire. And she has this little note after it in parenthesis, Felix Quinn, dash Sarah Kelly, Owen Quinn, dash Marianne Hagan, and John Quinn, dash Elizabeth Moffat. Number 3, John T. McCarthy of Keene, New Hampshire. Your families of County Cork and County Cork Genealogy and Family History Notes have shipped. You got both of our Cork books there. And number 4, Jim Hanley of Tyrone, Pennsylvania. You might have thought Jim would order a Tyrone book, but no, he ordered the County Roscommon Genealogy and Family History Notes, which has shipped. John Fogarty of East Setauket, New York. Your County Tipperary Genealogy book has shipped. Number 6, Robert Dunn of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Your Kings and Queens County Ireland Genealogy book has shipped. And Carol Culligan, Your Families of County Clare, Ireland has shipped, and Carol just became a member about 2 weeks ago, so we're glad you're doing some research there. And remember, you can also check out our online search list on our webpage, too. And, of course, that always reminds me that I have to say thank you to each and every one of our members out there, or each and every one of you that's getting ready to become a member, because without you, these podcasts wouldn't even be possible. So we sure do appreciate it, each and every one. Now it's going to be time to move on to the Irish family name of the day. Well, the name of the day today is Quinn, and I think just about everybody knows a Quinn. They're spread so far and wide throughout the world, it's hard to imagine even. And we're going to make this in honor of Kathleen Quinn, who's ordered a book today and is a member. And let me see. Look at all those spellings of that name. I went to the Master Guide to the Various Spelling of Irish Family Names. Links on the blog and on our webpage. And it's in, 6 different spelling groups. And you can spell that, of course, with a Q at the beginning, but you can also use a C at the beginning of that name, or a G. So it sounds like Quinn with a Q, but it could be Quinn with a C or Quinn with a G. And you can also find a fair amount of references to the name with the Mac in front of it. And then names like Quinlan or Quinnif or Quinny can be shortened to Quinn. So you have to do a little investigation there if you're having problems tracing that family back at some point. Now, as you might have already guessed, Quinn is one of the top 20 most numerous names in all of Ireland, and it is actually the most numerous name of County Tyrone. And that's because it's numerous, because there's several unrelated families of the name that sprang up in Ireland when they started using surnames, so you also have to look carefully at that. You're not related to every Quinn out there. Now, in County Clare, I know that's one of my favorite stops. The Quinns were centered around Corofin there, and O'Quinn is noted as a principal chief in Teffia, and their chief stronghold was at their castle in Rathcline. And you're also going to find the name in France fairly often, and you might just notice there's a street named Rue O'Quinn right there. So if you're in France, be sure to stop by that street and get your picture taken under that sign if you're a Quinn. Now, the early form of the name, they say, was O'Quinn. That's with an O in front of it, meaning descendant of Con. And in the 17th century, Quinn was a principal name of Waterford, and O'Quinn was in Dublin and Kings and Downs and Tipperary and maybe a few other places. But it's important to remember that a lot of time individual families will make a very big deal out of how they spell the name with one or two N's on the end of the name. And such claims like that are made for a lot of names. Names like Brown, they make a big deal out of whether there's an E on the end or there isn't. It helps differentiate them from other families, at least for the current time period. But, you go back several generations, you might find they all spelled it the same. You can't arbitrarily just claim that there's a difference because somebody happened to leave an N off at one time or add one on. And, of course, there's no doubt that some families did spell their names differently to show that they weren't related to the other family. And sometimes it might have been a son feuding with his father and says, okay, I'll show you. We're not one of those guys. And, of course, in isolated instances, it could also denote political differences. And we took those notes. There's more about that in the Book of Irish Families, Great and Small. I've got a link on the webpage. That's the master volume to our Irish Families Project, which is the 34-book set on Irish families and Irish family history. Well, let's take a look about Irish family coats of arms. What are we going to find here? Well, in the Irish Book of Arms, we find an illustrated arms and motto for Richard Quinn, who is known as Baron Quinn of Adair in County Limerick, and born in July 1763 and married to Frances Muriel. Well, that's interesting. See what you learned in a book of arms. You learned about a family and who the mister was married to and on what date and what the wife's name was. Things like that can be very helpful. Let's take a quick look at the free master index search of Irish names found on our webpage. You can tell Quinn's popular because we punched it up and it came up 158 times. That's 158 sources. And let's just take a few of those to see what kind of things came up. I think most people will know Quinn's going to come up in about everything. But here we found a first initial N. O. Quinn in the Special Census of Ireland. That's Pinner's survey. That's part of our Conquest of Ireland set. And number 2, we have Abraham McQuinn, who's in the Journal of the American Irish Historical Society, volume 27. Annie Quinn is given in volume 30 of that work. And then, if we go to the Annals of the Four Masters, you're going to find a whole lot of listings for Quinn there. You've got O. Quinn and Quinn Abbey. I've been to Quinn Abbey. You've got first initial D. Quinn and the Quinns of Teffia, the Quinns of Rathcline, the Quinns of Longford, the Quinns of Clare, the Quinns of Limerick, and the Chief Quinns of Ireland are all noted in the Annals of the Four Masters. Number 5, we'll take the O'Quinns, who are also cited in the Fall of Irish Chiefs and Clans, and that's likely some of those Quinns from way up north in Ireland, and they had a role to play in that battle, that's for sure. Well, that does it for the name of the day. Good luck to everybody out there looking for the Quinns. Hope I gave you some ideas maybe with all those sources. Well, next we're going to move on to the websites of the week. Well, we're going to pick 4 little sites here today. Number 1 is the Quinn Family Genealogy Forum. You can click that link on the blog if you want to get to, or I guess you could type it in your browser and it'd come up for you just as quick. Number 2, the Irish Families Project is our video of the day, and that's a video short I shot explaining just what the Irish Families Project is all about, and showed you pictures of all the different books and how it noted how it might help you in your genealogy research or historical endeavors. And you can see the video on my webpage, or it's also part of the podcast that comes out today. So be sure to get that. That's the Irish Families Project video short, and I think that's week number or episode number 7. Pretty close to that anyway. The week before we did the Irish Book of Irish Families, Great and Small. This week it's the whole project. Number 3, the County Leitrim, Ireland webpage. And you can find out a little bit more about the county and its history and its special spots. And they make a note on that page and they say, Leitrim is bound by water, which defines its character and supplies its recreation. The Shannon Erne Waterway, Europe's longest inland navigable waterway, stretches throughout the county. And that's at leitrimtourism.com. We'll have a little bit more on that later. And number 4, an Irish wind map by county. That's right, wind map. And you can find that on there too. It's at iwea.com. But it's best, it's got a long address after that, so you can just click that on our blog and go right to it. It talks about wind farms and power generation by county by county. Well, that's going to wrap that part up today. Let's move on to our final segment. Now, don't be telling me my last segment is everybody's final segment. I hope that's not the case. Curious news and notes. Number 1, Michael O'Leary, Chief Executive Officer of Ryanair in Ireland, is looking for new routes to fly and routes to fly into America. And the latest talk I saw was of flights from Dublin to Niagara Falls right here in North America. Number 2. Well. Annie Naughton of Connemara, that's by Spittal in County Galway. She parked her car illegally and blocked a truck from passing, so Warden Neil McHugh gave her a ticket when she did not respond after he asked her twice to move the car. I guess she didn't even talk to him. And it seems that Anne believes that the policeman should have talked to her in the Irish language, seeing as how it is in Connemara and all the commitments in that area that have been made to keep the language alive and as the official language of the area. You know how hard it is to fight City Hall, so she just decided she wasn't going to listen, and I guess she wasn't going to accept that ticket. But she did go to court, and the judge listened carefully to her story, and she was fined 40 euros with 50 additional euros fined to her for expenses of the court. Well, I tell you, things are the same everywhere, aren't they? Good luck to you, Anne. Number 3. County Leitrim is the name of the county that was once one of the poorest and overlooked Irish counties, but now they're enjoying a boom, they say, and it's looked upon as a great holiday spot to get away from it all, and not just tourists from overseas, but also tourists from Dublin just looking for a quiet place to hide out that might remind them of the Ireland they grew up in, a place not quite so booming. So now we can watch Leitrim boom just like the rest of the places did, maybe. I don't know. But get there quick before it's all sold out. Number 4, keep an eye out for Guinness here as they celebrate their 250th birthday. That would include television ads and billboards, and I bet it even includes some commemorative sweatshirts and caps, to say the least, if I know Guinness. And that'll be an interesting thing to look for. It's coming up real soon. Number 5, you've probably heard a story or two about a long-winded Irishman. Well, now it seems that the Irish are able to generate enough wind power to serve 650,000 homes. Capacity recently exceeded 1,000 megawatts for the first time, and more wind farms are scheduled to come online soon. That's why I picked that wind farm website up there. You might want to investigate it if you're into wind power. And that reminds me about last time I was in Ireland, and Mrs. Flaherty said that Mr. O'Flaherty could supply at least 1,000 homes with his hot air alone. Now, number 6. It seems a new magazine called Your Child's First Communion is under some review by some folks in Ireland. And it seems they say that the modeling of the dresses and the tiaras, it creates an undue social pressure, and it's not what the occasion is really all about. It's supposed to be spiritual, not about physical things, but I think this magazine's all about having nice communion dresses and things like that, which can be a very good thing, too. And it's in its second year of publication, and they say it sells 15,000 copies of its yearly edition. So isn't that an interesting little side note you read about nowhere else? Well, that's going to do it for today, folks. Thanks for coming by. We've got to get ready for our 100th broadcast next week. Remember to send your comments by clicking the contact link on our webpage at www.irishroots.com, or send by mail to our American address, the Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri 64116. Leave your message or report on things in your part of the world when you call my phone recorder at 816-256-3360 and Skype me at Irish Roots Cafe. Members foot the bill so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.